Hey guys, it's Chris, and in this video I'm going to show you how to reset a user's password via email. Our goal in this video is to have a user come to the site, click the forgot password link, submit their email, then we should be able to send them an email with instructions to which they can click on a link that can redirect them to the site, and then we ask them to supply a new password. So the requirements for this are we should be able to send them a unique token in the URL, and then that token should only be used once, so a user doesn't like use that link more than once. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So at the moment we have the login form here, so I want to reuse this and create the form where they can supply their email, and we send them the instructions with the link to come and verify. Okay, so I'm in the application here. So we have the views basically for registration, we have for login, we have for activation and logout. And by the way, there are videos about this. You can check out the playlist that this video is in. Okay, so now we need to create a form and a page where a user can go and request for a reset password. So I'm going to create another view. So I'm going to actually copy and paste this class paste view. So this I'm going to call it request reset email. So to talk more about the flow of this, we are going to have a form where a user can supply their email, and then we are going to have another form that will contain two password input fields from where they can come and confirm their new password. So this one we are setting up basically is one where they can request for the reset email. We want to first handle a GET request because we want to be able to display a page from where they can supply the email. So I'm going to change this one to GET. So basically when we get a GET request, we want to send, basically we can do return render, and we want to render an HTML page. So this is going to be in auth. Then we're going to call it request email. We want to call it request to reset email.html. All right, so once we have this, now we need to create this page. So in templates right here, now we can create our page. So actually we don't need the auth. So it's going to be request reset email.html. Let's quickly hook up our URLs. So in the urls.py, which is right here, we are going to have this one. So this is going to be request reset email. That will be the path. It's not taking in any parameter, so it's going to be just that. Then it's going to refer to views.request reset email, then as view. Then I want to give it a unique name here. Then of course we need a comma. Okay, so that should do it. So that should be able to handle our request. Now if we go to our template, which is here, it's empty for now. So I want to build onto what we already have in the reset in the register. So I'm going to bring in that markup. Then I'm going to remove what we don't need. Okay, so we bring in the base template. Then so over here, I'm going to change this to be provide. Oh, sorry, caps lock. So I'm going to change this to be provide your email to receive reset instructions. Okay, so once we have that, then we don't need this login, the Facebook login button. We actually don't need all this or okay, we don't need this stuff. I believe we also don't need all this. Okay, so I'm gonna get everything out. So right here, this will submit to the same URL. So the form that will take in the user's email, we are going to want it to submit to, let's look at our URLs. So the name of this is request reset email. So this is what we are going to need to provide over here. Okay, so we are bringing our token, cross-site request forgery prevention token. So here we define our email input. Then we persist the previous email if we need to. So yeah, that's fine. Now let's remove these other details we don't need. Passwords, we don't need them. Okay, so let's edit the submission text to be submit. Okay, let's remove this small tag. Tap this one over so it can look a bit better. Okay, so once we have that, then I'm going to change this one to have a link to go back to the registration page. So that one goes to login. So this is saying already have an account, so that should be login. Good. Don't have an account. So don't have an account, we'll go to register. Okay, so let's now test this one out. But before we do that, we need to link to it in our other pages. For example, on the login page, we can create another card with a link to go to this page. So here we can say forgot password. And this is going to go to, so looking at our URLs, the name is request reset email. So this is going to go here. So now we can change this text to be reset it here. Okay. So I'm going to have the same thing on the registration. So even here, down. Okay, so right here, we're going to have that. So now when we go back to our page and reload, you can see that we have forgot password reset here. Clicking on it brings us to a page where we can provide our email to receive reset instructions. Okay, so right here, we can provide an email and then click submit. And then right now we are not handling the post request, so we need to go ahead and handle it in our view. Okay, so views.py. Let's now handle our post request. So def post. So since it's a class, we have to bring in self with request. Okay, so right here we are going to have to pick out the email. So email will be request.post. Request.post. Then we want to pick email. Okay, so right here, first thing we are going to need to first do before we even send out an email is to check if this user exists in the database. So for us to do that, basically we can do one or two things. So first thing we have to do is make sure it's valid. So we can say if not validate email. So this now will check if the email is valid. So if it's not valid, then we want to return. Basically, I want to show a flash message. So messages dot error texting a request. Then now we can say please enter a valid email. So if the email is invalid, basically we want to send them to the same page. So right here we can return render the same page. So if it's valid, then now we can send an email to it. So before we even do that, we now have to check if this email exists. So the user with this email exists. So now to do that, you can say user equals, we use the user model to filter out our users. So we can filter by email, and then we want to check email equals email. Okay, so it should be user.objects.filter. Let's not forget that. This actually, let me make this one bigger just so you guys can see it clearly. Okay, so this now can return us all users that match this email. So this is going to return for us a list. Okay, so now once we have this, we can check if this returned one value or more by doing exists. So if user.exists, so this would mean that the user actually exists, has an account on our application. But if a user doesn't exist, then it's always a good idea to also tell them that we sent you an email to the email you supplied. So right here, now we can say messages dot success. Then now we can say request. Then we can say we have sent you an email with instructions on how to reset your password. So this is the generic message we are going to send to everyone. Either you have an account or you don't have. If you're trying to like check which users exist in our database, we'll also tell you we sent you an email. So once we have that, then of course we want to return to the same page. So we are going to need the same render. Now let's go ahead and handle when a user has an account. So basically we handle the process of sending an email. So I'm going to use the same thing we've done for the registration, where we send the activation email. So right here, I'm going to bring all this email stuff, copy it, and then where is it? And then right here. So now we are going to be sure that we are sending an email only when the user actually has an account, so we don't waste our processing to people who don't have accounts and they are trying to check which users exist in our database. Okay, so right here, I'm going to rename the email subject to be reset your password. Okay. Then we are going to have a template that we'll use in here, and then we are going to use the render to string utility to basically format these variables into the HTML. So right here, I'm going to call it reset password. I'm going to call it user password so they don't collide. So let's create this file, then we'll come back to this in a minute. So right here, I'm gonna do reset password.html. Basically, it's going to be the same as our activate template, so I'm gonna copy this. The difference is we are not going to be saying their name. We can say hi there. Then we can say blah blah blah. Please click the link to set a new password. Now we have something that we need to think about. So when they click a link from their email, we need to bring them to a page where they can set a new password. Now, the way that page is going to be formatted is it's going to have to take in these parameters. So this will basically uniquely identify a user across those links. So we need to set up a view that will handle. So this will be like the redirect URL where they will come to when they are from the email. Okay, so it's the same view that will contain the two input fields where they can submit their new password. So I'm going to call it set new password. Set new password, that will be the name. So we are going to need to create this view, but then so we're going to create this view. I think we can create it now. So in our views.py, actually let's start from the URLs. So it's going to be a lot similar with this activation view. So I'm going to basically build from that. Let me bring in the view. So this is going to go to, I want it to be set new password. So this is going to be set new password / these unique details, and then the view, we are going to need to create it, and then the name should be this. So this name should match what we put here, what we put on in our template, because what Django is going to do is it's going to use this URL and then try to reverse this unique name. So with the unique name, it should be able to get the path and all the parameters needed. Good. All right, so we need to set up the basically the view that we'll go to. So I'm going to call it set new password view. So now let's go ahead and create it. So in our views.py, down here, let's create it, class that one. It's going to inherit from view. and then we are going to need to have a GET request and a POST request. So for now, we are going to handle a GET request. It's going to be def GET, and now we need to be able to accept these parameters to be passed through. So one is this ID, this UID, but this is going to be a user's ID, but then it's going to be encoded in base64 format. So we're going to accept the ID and then the unique token. Okay, so right here, basically we need self, we need request, and then we need the UID. UID BS4, I believe that's how it's called here. It should be the same. So then the next thing is going to be the token. Okay, but right, once we have this, then we can now, for now we are going to return this same template for now. So I'm going to return it. Then actually we can also handle post. So let me also bring it in here, because we have to do it anyway. So get dev post. Then let's skip this, but we'll come back to it, of course, to make sure it's working great. So now coming back to our email sending functionality, we have set up our subject, we have set up our render to string. So these variables are going to be passed in, and then they are going to come in here and be repressed. So basically in this HTML, we say we expect a dynamic domain, and then these dynamic values. So right here, we want to send down a user to this. Actually, we don't even need to send down a user. So right here, we can remove the user. And then the domain, of course, we need it. And now for the UID, we are going to use the URL safe base64 encoder to basically turn it into bytes that you can transfer seamlessly across the network. And then when it comes to the token, we are going to need to do one thing. So previously, when we were activating a user's email, we used the utility that I created over here. So this utility basically was taking in the isActive, to which it would use to make sure to see if this has changed. So basically, when a user would verify the email, this would change, and therefore we would be able to say that their email was used. So when it's that their activation link was used. So now when it comes to the reset password, we actually have a built-in class that we can basically use to do just that. We don't need to do an extra setup. So we can actually keep our utility, but then we're going to import this class directly. So let me actually bring it up. So utils, I'm going to get it here. What is views.ui? It's right here. So I'm going to import this to help us with sending reset passwords. So the way it works is right here, we can call the class, and then we need to call MakeToken. So what this will do is it's going to return for us that unique token, and then it's going to keep track of when that token is used to reset a password. So meaning the first time a user uses it to reset, this class will automatically know that it has now been invalid. So now let's take a look again. So we have the subject, we have this information. Okay, so we have the user ID, which we get from, okay. So there's something we need to fix here. So this user, basically this returns a list, like I told you. So if this is a list, then our user is going to be the first user in that. So we can now do user 0.pk. So this is what will return for us, the user ID, to encode in the URL. Okay, so once we have this setup, then we can compose our email, and then you see we are sending it to our user. So we are sending it to the email that the user supplies, and then we call email message send. Okay, so once we have that, now we can go ahead and test it out. Let's first fix our problems here. So dev post, where is this? Okay, need to tap this one over. Need to bring this one back. Okay, so now let's go back to the application, click on reset here, and then here I'm going to provide an email. So I'm going to provide this one, click submit, and And then we see we have sent you an email with instructions to reset your password. So you notice that this was quick, and basically what I'm thinking is because that user doesn't have an account. So if you see here, if statement will run and we only send an email when a user has an account. But either way, we also tell the other user who doesn't have that we have sent you an email, because why would they even try to submit an account they don't have? Okay, so let's try supplying an account that's already there. So I have this account here. So when I click submit, okay, so we have an issue here. So this is saying object query set object has no attribute last login query set object. Okay. So let's take a look closely to on where we have the user. So we basically have a user here. Then we check exists. I think that's fine. Then right here, we also have to send to the user 0 because filter returns for us a list. So right here, it actually returns for us a query set. So what we need is the first instance of the user, because we know our emails are unique, so it's always going to be 1. So right here we can pass a 0 and then save. Then let's try it again. Reload. Let's supply an email that exists. Click submit. And then now you see it's taking some time. Okay, so after a while you can see that the application tells us that the email has been sent. So let me check out my email box you can see that I have the new email. So clicking on it, you can see that we have a new email and it says, hi there, click the link to set a new password. Then in the link you see we basically have this parameter and then this. So clicking on it, it takes us back to the application, but then takes us to the same page. So that is working. So that is here. So that is now coming up to here, and then it's taking us to the other page. So right here, I'm going to add a PDB just so we could inspect what's coming in here. Okay, so now if I reload here, you can see that it's stuck. So in here, I can now tap into these variables. So I can now check this one. You can see that it's MQ. Then we can check this one, the token. Now you can see that we have these two. So if you ever want to check which user ID was this one, so the user ID that's in here, we can use the URL safe decode to decode this. So to do that, let's first look at the way it's written. So this is the one. So this is URL base 64, URL safe underscore base 64 underscore decode, and then we want to give it the UID, so which is this. Okay, so once we print this, actually it's not bringing in, so that's because I misspelled the decode. So once we do that, you can see that it's returning for us the user ID 1. But now there is an issue. So right here, you can see that it's in byte format. So for us to turn it into like a string format, we can use the force text utility. So right here, we can do force underscore text, which we import already. So in here, it should be text, not texts. Okay, so once we do that, now you can see that this is a string that we can work with. So that's the logic we are going to be using to do all this. So also to check if the link has been used before, we can basically do the same thing. So the way we do that is we use the password reset generator class, and now we check for something called check underscore token. So this check token basically is going to look out for the token. So the token now, we have it in the request, so we can pass in token, and then this should return for us true or false depending on if the token has been used before. So once we do that, actually it is missing one. Okay, so check token, let me see here. Okay, so it takes in two things. One of them is the user, another one is the token. So right here we basically need to get the user. So we can get the user by ID. So we can actually bring in all this just to show you how it all comes together. So the first property is going to be the user, then the second is going to be the token. So now we can get the user by this UID, which can be user.objects.get. So the UID actually relates to the primary key. So we can do pk equals now all this. So all this will return 1, we already know. So now if we do that, you can see that we get true. Okay, so now once we use that token, this should be able to turn to false, and we should not be able to use the link again. Alright, so enough with this. Now let's continue. I'm going to continue the program execution. So now, going back to our views.py, which is here. Let me actually first correct these mistakes. So in views.py, right here, we basically need to render another template. So this is going to be set new password .html. So it's going to be the same thing we basically work with when we're handling the post request. So let's now create the set new password. So this is going to be .html, and then it's going to look a lot similar like the registration template. So I'm going to pick up the registration page, come over here, then I'm going to remove everything and only keep the 2 passwords. So don't need this. I basically need to do better with my format. Let me actually make it bigger, but I'm going to try to bring this one here. You need to set up a formatter to work with this easily. Okay, so we don't need the full name. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this. We don't need the username. We just need the password 1 and password 2, and then the value to submit. So I'm going to change the button to submit. I'm going to change the value to be submit instead of register. Okay, so up here, let's see what we have. We don't need an email, so let's remove that one too. But now here it's going to be different. So here is where I want you to be very attentive. So you notice that our URLs, so basically you notice that our post request, even our get request. So you notice that our post request will be taking in the UID and then the token. So before we even render the page, we need a way to send these ones down. So right here, even on the get, so I'm going to make a context object, a context dictionary. Sorry, I switch them sometimes, but it's the same thing in the end. So right here, we are going to send these objects down. So this is gonna be the ID, the encoded ID basically. So now here, the token will be the token, and now we can now send them to the page. So this is going to be token, context. This is going to be context. Okay, so we need the same thing for the post request. So right here, let's also send them here. So context. Okay, so going back to our page, let's continue. So right here, I mentioned that we are going to be submitting to the same view, which is this one, but then we are going to expect it to send for us these items. So right now we are already like sending them in the gate, meaning we can access them in the template. So now we can now have a way of sending them back. So for us to be able to do that, let me actually first bring up our URL name. So our URL name is set new password, which is this. So right here, now we can, it should be set new password. Let me get it. Okay, so right here, we are going to be submitting to set new password. And then of course it's going to be a post request, but we need a way to pass these two here. So for us to be able to pass them, right here in the template, right here after the closing, basically the string here for the URL, we can pass these values here. So just leave a space, pass the first one, then leave a space, no commas, no nothing, then pass the second one, which is going to be token. So the URL is going to be able now to match them in. So it's going to know we are going here. The first parameter is this, the second parameter is this. Okay. So once we have that, now we need to handle the post request. So for us now, let's go back to our views.py. So here in the post request, I'm actually going to use some stuff from the registration, like validating the passwords. So this is the let me just get to it. Okay, so this is the post request. So we want to basically validate the passwords, make sure they match. Okay, so let's bring this one down. Let's bring this one down in the post. So right here, once a user submits the form, we want to pick the first password, the second one, then we check if the password, basically the length is greater than 6. If not, we show them an error. We want to make sure they are the same, just so they don't easily forget it. Then once we have this, once there is an error, so right here I can actually check for this. But what you see here, we are trying to check for the has error property in the context, which is not there. So I'm going to have it there by default, and by default it's going to be false. Let's see. By default it's going to be false. Okay, so now once there is an error, then we are going to update it to true. So here we can check if it's true, then we don't continue. So if context, actually we can just do this. So if context has error equals true, then we want to render the same page and then tell them that there is an error. So right here, we want to render the same page. We want to render the same page, and then what this will do is going to flash these messages and then on this page. Okay, so once it passes that will mean the user has set a new password. It was same across the two fields. It is not less than 6 characters. Okay, so right here we can handle setting their new password. Okay, so first things first, we need to now get a user to which we are going to set the password. So if you remember the things we did in the console, we are going to do them here so we can get a user. So now we can say user ID. So the user ID, we are going to get it from our UID base64 encoded. So we can now use the utilities we used, which one is this one, and now this one takes in the UID. So here we are saying decode this and give us the UID. So like you saw, this will return some bytes, so we need to turn them to strings. You can actually do str, but we are going to do force text because that's what we used to even create the token. So just do force text, that will do the same job. So this should give us an ID, but one thing to keep in mind is once this ID is corrupted, this is going to crash the application. So it's always a good idea to wrap all this in the try catch block. So actually it's try except block. Okay, so everything we run will be running in the try except. Okay, so the exception we are going to catch is going to be Django Unicode decode error. So this is the one. So once we are unable to decode it, then that means something went wrong. So we can tell the user something went wrong setting a new password. We can do it here. So we can do something like messages dot error request. Something went wrong. And hopefully this will never happen. Okay, so once we have the user ID, now we can query for the user. So we can do user equals user dot objects dot get. So now we get them we are going to get this user by the pk, which now we set to our user ID. Okay, so this now returns for us a user. Now we need to now set their new password, which we can do by user.set underscore password, and then we can give it the new password. Okay, so once we have this, I believe we have to save. So let's have it in there. So user.save to make the changes take effect. So once we save, now we can tell the user that the password was saved, they can log in. So now we can say messages.success. Then we can do password. Actually, this takes in a request at first. So do request. So request. Then now this will return for us. Now we can say password reset success. You can now log in with new password. Okay, so now we can return a redirect to the login page. So return redirect to the login view. So once we have this, now we need to handle one more to make sure that the link was not used twice. But let us actually first try that. So if we come back to our application, I'm going to go back to our email, then click on the email. You notice that now we are sent to a page where we are requested to set a new password. Let me actually change this one in a few. So this should be set new password. Okay, let me remove this thing here. Set your preferred password. Okay, so let's remove this link too. Don't need it. Okay, so let's reload. You can see this is much cleaner. So here I can set a new password. So pass. So let me first submit a password that don't match. Click submit. You see passwords don't match, which is good. So let's submit passwords that match, but they are of less than 6 characters. Click submit. So you get they should be at least 6 characters. Good. So let's now submit a new password. So password 123. Password 123. Click submit, and then you can see that password reset success. You can now log in with the new password. So let me try logging in. So this is password 123, and you can see that I can log in. Good. So meaning that our flow is working. If I try using the old password, which was password, you can see that it can't log in. So meaning our functionality is working. So now let's test the last bit to make sure the tokens can't be used twice. So if I click here, you notice that we come to the same page, but the ideal thing to do would be to take a user to the page where they can request the password, which is here, where they can request the email, which is here, and then tell them that your link expired or blah blah blah. So for us to be able to do that, if we go back to our view, which is, so in the get request actually. So in the get request, we are going to do something quite similar. So we're going to do this try catch. Let me actually bring this one in. So right here, what is the get request? So right here, before we render the page, we want to first check a few things. Okay, so for now, I'm going to have that one in there. Let's continue. So right here, we get the ID, then we query for the user, which is good. So once we have that, of course, we are not setting a new password, but once we have the user, now we want to check if this token was used before. So for us to do that, we can do if not. Now we use the password reset generator class, which is password reset generator. Then we do check token. And like we saw, check token takes in the user and then the token. So now the user is here, we already have it. And then the token, we also have it already. Okay, so pass the token too. And now, so if not, basically this means when this returns false, at least like you saw the other time, it returned true in the console. So now if it returns false, then we are going to know that the link is invalid or it was used before. So right here we can say messages dot, actually we can say info. So now we pass a request, then we can say password link reset link is invalid. Please request a new one. Okay, so now we can redirect them to the page where they can request a new one. Actually, we can just render the other template, which is here. All right. So that would go here. Oh, interesting. Let me copy it again. Okay, copy. Okay, so right here, now we can send them to this page. Okay, so once there is an error, then we can also tell them maybe something went wrong. which is, I think we've done it before. Okay, so we can keep this. So that can go in this catch block, the accept block here. So now we can actually bring them here, set new password. So we actually don't want to go to set. Okay, so it's the same thing. So here we can take them here also. Actually, I'm going to use the same messages. So because this one will also be quite similar to it being invalid, but here most likely it will be because a user has tampered with the token. Maybe because, okay, most likely from the URLs. Okay, password, this should be invalid link. I'm going to keep it simple as invalid link, and then let's try it out. Okay, so basically we are getting the user, we are checking if they have used it before. So if they have, so if they have used it before, basically we don't need this, so let's remove this. We give them a warning and then we take them to this page. Let's also remove the redirect to login. Okay, so let's test it out. Hopefully it will work great. So let's go back. So from the email, I'm going to click on it again. And now you see we get password reset link is invalid. Please request a new one. Okay, so let's try it again. So let's use the very email, submit. So this sends us a new email. You might notice that these emails are quite slow to come. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to speed them up, like make sure they come very fast and the user is not blocked. So once I check, so if I check my email again, you can see I have a new email. So let me show it. So if I click on it, you can see, oh, interesting. Interesting. So it looks like we have some issue. So basically, this is being handled by, this is now being handled here. Where is it? Set new password, gate. Okay, so that, what we know is it's not here. Oh, okay. So the issue is here. So this should be inside the if statement. Okay, so it's likely going to be taking us here. So let's retry. Click on the link. Now you see we have a page where they say set a new password. So right here we can now set a new password. So I'm going to set password 1. Click submit. So you see reset success. So let's now try to use the link again. So click on it. Now you can see that it's expired. Okay, so which is what we want. Okay, so I'm going to be pausing the video here. In the next one, I will be showing you how to speed up these emails. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.